It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Israel has been condemned for seizing a buffer zone in Syria following the collapse of the Syrian government and its authoritarian leader Bashar al-Assad. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claims it's necessary to protect his country's security.
Yes, several Arab nations are accusing Israel of violating international law after the Israeli military sent ground forces into the UN-monitored demilitarized area. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights also says that Israeli tanks were spotted southwest of the capital of Damascus, which the IDF denies. The monitoring group also says the Israeli military has carried out more than 300 airstrikes on targets across Syria since Sunday, hitting ports, airports, and other military infrastructure.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv. Raf, I know you're outside of the courthouse where Netanyahu is testifying in his criminal corruption trial. We'll discuss that with you in the next hour. But for now, what more can you tell us about these strikes, these reports of Israeli ground troops inside Syria?
So, Joe, Savannah, very widespread Israeli strikes all across Syria since.
In this round, here's Quan LX.
Charles, we all watched last week and we saw news reports that the Syrian government, the Assad regime, has now fallen. The rebels have taken over the Syrian government, those rebels who were fighting against the tyrannical oppression of leader Bashar al-Assad and his father, who was in leadership before 50 years, Assad regime. But now people are saying now that the Assad regime has fallen, even though Russia was one of the main reasons why they had not fallen before during the Obama administration. But because Russia's now in that war with Ukraine, Russia backed away and left them to themselves, and the regime has now been toppled. Many in the West was applauding this and celebrating this, but many don't understand in the West who are the rebels. And now this new rebel government that will be taking over, will they be friendly toward Western democracy and Western countries, period? We see Israel has made some preemptive strikes inside of Syria because they're concerned that those rebels who may be militant or have ties to Iran will strengthen those positions to make it more dangerous in striking Israel. The entire region is now up in flames. Israel is at war now in Syria, at war in Palestine, at war in Lebanon. That entire region is engulfed now. Egypt is condemning them. Other nations in the Islamic world are condemning them. That entire region is going to hell. And somebody needs to step in and stabilize that region because it has the power to engulf the whole world in that conflict.
I absolutely couldn't disagree more, but I mean, shocking. Look, initially the UN has come out and condemned Israel like they always do, while at the same time, at the exact same time as the UN is condemning Israel's military actions on their Syrian border, Israel soldiers, the IDF, are protecting UN peacekeepers from death from the extremists involved in toppling Bashar al-Assad's government. The strikes by Israel, the chemical weapons depot that Bashar al-Assad used to murder his own people to keep his iron grip on control. I think we should all agree that that probably doesn't need to fall into the hands of terrorists. Turkey has launched missile attacks to stop missiles and other munitions from being transported out of Syria by extremists to be used in other conflicts in the region. And no one's talking about that, right? Because of course it's Turkey, so it's okay, but the UN's going to condemn Israel while also leaning on Israel. And of course we have this whole anti-Semitic mythos that doesn't ever stop. And the question is, well, we don't have any Jews living anywhere in the Middle East of any major population, very minuscule, several hundred and some. There should be hundreds of thousands. Because why? Because they're not accepted, they're not embraced, they're not allowed, right? Where of course in Israel we talk about apartheid, but the truth is it's the terrorists that keep blowing up stuff and killing people. And beyond the terrorists, Israel gives more money and does more than any of the surrounding nations for health care and life for everyone, including Palestinians in their country.
So they're giving money to Syrians,
no,
and Lebanese and Lebanon?
What Syria and Lebanon do is they have allowed for the person where we've seen videos just in the last few days of Christians being tortured by these extremists that toppled the Bashar Assad regime. But the real craziness
but
is,
you saw,
is
but you see the same abuse with Christians being physically assaulted in Israel also.
Okay, no, you
so
don't.
Yes,
you
do.
don't see Christians being tortured and murdered and shot in the head.
You see Christians being spit in the face.
Lies
you see Christians being beaten with sticks, even in Israel.
Hey, I get
it. What I'm not
it.
willing to do is condemn everybody else for their bad and let Israel escape for her wrongdoing. All of them should be held accountable.
There's a reason why you can't practice Christianity or the Jewish faith in the Islamist regimes in the Middle East.
Lie.
Because of Islamist.
That's an absolute lie.
Okay,
you got Christians in Iraq,
right now,
Christians in Palestine, Christians in Syria, Christians in Lebanon.
Okay.
That's a lie.
Okay, you're lying. Lebanese Christians have had to flee to the United States and Europe en masse over the last 2 decades because of terror directed at them because of their faith. Okay, I know them. I know the community. I know the culture and what Christians have been put through by Islamist extremism.
Quit lying, man.
But let me
lying,
get to it. You're the one lying.
You got
That's
Christians
what you do on TV.
who have persecution problems
all
over the world,
hold on.
not just in Muslim countries.
Okay, no. There is
one
part of this world.
Jehovah's Witnesses
there is
and
one
Seventh-day
part of this
Adventist
world.
Church of Latter-day Saint members
there is
right in
one
America
part of this
who
world.
claim government persecution.
There is only
it's
one
the
part
same
of this
thing,
world
Charles.
that is violently opposed to the practice of other religions, other than like China, which doesn't allow any religion because that government is authoritarian monster.
Same with North Korea and parts of Russia.
Right, you're right. But it's the Islamist regimes that show intolerance. In Europe right now, the only time you're seeing intolerance, Notre Dame, it just happened to burn to the ground, just reopened last week. All the cathedrals,
so now you
all the
blame
churches.
The Muslims for that?
I would blame Islamist extremism, yes.
Man, but what's your proof? Where's your proof?
Where's your proof? I went off track. Let me get back on track. What you said is someone needs to step in and stabilize the regime. And that's the region. And that's what I should have been responding to. America and our CIA has been toppling regimes for decades, hoping that democracy will take hold in cultures where democracy just doesn't work, right?
Western-style democracy.
Okay, no democracy at all.
No, Western-style democracy.
What did the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia do when there were some of his relatives not so happy with his anointment? He imprisoned them all. He killed some of them.
And what did the government of the United States do about it? Nothing.
Oh no, we got
when he killed the journalist in a Saudi embassy on a foreign land. What did we do?
Biden bowed his damn
So we
head.
just the same hypocrites.
Here's the thing.
We practice hypocrisy
too. No, we're not the same hypocrites.
We practice hypocrisy
Islamist extremism, and this doesn't apply to the Muslim faith generally. It applies to about the 30% of them that think it's okay to kill people. Yeah, 30%.
Where do you get that number from?
It's widely published.
Charles,
right?
so let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Are 30% of white Christians in America racist?
No.
But guess what? You can easily paint them as such.
No,
you can take actual factual history and paint white Christians the same way in America.
No one uses
that's hypocrisy, Charles.
You can't use the Bible to justify racism.
Well, that's what the white man did in America and around the world, and he used it to colonize Africa.
But right now, our government doesn't need to step in. Our government needs to stop sending our military men and women to go die in that desert over there. Let them figure it out them damn selves.
But our government's not starting the wars.
Our government
Israel is starting the wars.
Israel.
It's not our
Israel
government.
started October 7th. Israel started shooting rockets into it.
Israel invaded Lebanon.
You don't like Jews.
For no legitimate reason. That's no lie.
Like Jews.
The original Jews are black people, fool. Crackpot. The original Jews are black people.
I know that you
not
push
white
that.
European converts.
I know you push that.
Yes,
right?
black people are the original Jews.
You're an anti-Semite.
How the hell are you going to tell me I don't like Jews?
Because you don't.
Because the real Jews, the original ones, are black people.
Needs to get its butt out of the Middle East and let the Middle East figure it out. And you've been anti-Semitic for years. Just
That's
push
the
your
lie you always try to put on somebody.
Lies elsewhere.
In today's Face-Off, Up.
Samuel Bateman claimed to have more than 20 spiritual wives. Many of them were underage girls as young as 9. 3 of his victims got up and spoke to the judge today. Then they turned their attention directly to Sam Bateman himself. They detailed the abuse that they endured and told him he no longer has control over them and their lives. The judge agreed with everything they said, giving him 50 years, which was the maximum sentence for that plea deal. I want to show you some video now. Sam Bateman appeared in court today in a black and white jumpsuit. He did not say anything to the judge when given a chance. Bateman was first arrested in August 2022 after underage girls were found in a trailer he was driving in deplorable conditions in Flagstaff. That ordeal was all caught on police body camera. Bateman posted bond, but then was arrested again after an FBI raid at his Colorado City home, where many young girls were rescued. He and his adult wives then created a scheme to kidnap the rescued underage girls and brides from state custody, and they were later caught in Washington. Several of Bateman's adult wives pleaded guilty and were sentenced for their role in the scheme, and 2 of Bateman's male followers were convicted in October for their role in persuading and transporting the young girls. While the victims did not want to speak to media after the hearing, 2 advocates, one a former undercover detective who worked with several of these young victims, spoke about how moved they were by.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Well, thank God, Quanell. Thank God that Samuel Bateman is going to do, on 50 years in Arizona, he'll probably do 30, 35. But old enough to hopefully that his, sexual organ won't work if he manages to make it through what most certainly will be a difficult time in prison for this monstrous rapist. This is FLDS, so an offshoot of the Mormon Church, which are the Church of Latter-day Saints. Some people think Mormon is a slur. I'm not sure if it's LDS. No, I've had some LDS people tell me that they see it as a derogatory. Obviously, that church, which co-opted portions of Christianity and other religions very early on to build it, it clearly started as a cult around the founder.
One of the original members is Brigham Young.
Founder, right. Well, Brigham Young was
co-founder.
It was John
Smith, then Brigham Young.
And John Smith had some crazy ideas. As many religions begin with crazy ideas, but they had a reform movement. If you want to talk about racist, right? LDS was clear. They wouldn't allow no interracial marriage and that. They wouldn't allow African Americans or black people. They wouldn't put black people to be in until the 70s, and that it really just you go to Utah, you go to Salt Lake, beautiful, safe, nice, but there's a strange homogeneity.
Well,
that is
the majority of the population is quote unquote Mormon.
Right. But this, of course, is this is Warren Jeff's sect of basically throwback, old school Mormonism.
Yeah, but
right?
I condemn this man.
Oh yeah.
For having those young girls as wives, taking those young children as wives. You should be condemned and punished to the fullest extent of the law. He should be put under the jail for having sex with children, claiming they're his wives. That is a distortion of the biblical teachings and principles. But now I will say this, the adult women that agreed to be his wives, and they were adults, should that be illegal?
I mean, I think so.
So 2 men can marry, 2 women can marry, but a man can't marry more than one woman?
Look.
Why is same sex legal, but a man can't marry more than one woman?
I'm going to tell you, I don't have a moral problem. I think adults should be able to do what they want.
So you're not against polygamy, men have more than one wife?
Right. Look, if there's not a coercive relationship, and most of these adults were 17, 18-year-old girls that were trapped in this cult.
The kids, the children.
But you can be an adult at 18 and not be grown.
Well, that's a different discussion. He got punished for the children.
But
raping those children, which he should have been punished for.
Well, let's say it's said legalization. Iraq just changed their age of consent to 12 years old to allow people. We have in Afghanistan. We have Afghanistan. We have
madness.
We have people using 9-year-old girls.
Madness.
Right? You see in the Middle East that you have these old men marrying these young girls.
Well, you see it right here in America too, with this specific cult, this church.
That they're justifying these raping of children and these having a.
I'm not against a man having more than one wife. I'm not.
That was my question.
I'm not against that. I believe it's okay if it's consenting Let me explain.
Okay.
I believe it's okay if consenting adults agree to it, because you can't tell a woman what she has the right to do with her body, right? So if that woman chooses to be a part of a relationship and be a man's wife while he has other wives too, that's a consenting adult agreement.
How about a wife having more than one husband?
That's her business if she wants to do that.
Okay.
As a man, I would not want to be in a relationship to where my wife has more than one man, and now I'm in one room and he in the other room going pound town on my wife.
Okay.
No, I don't want to do that.
Well,
I don't think no real man would want to allow another man to go balls deep on his wife and then claim that's his wife.
Okay.
That's a sick individual to me.
There's this whole swinging culture out there that everyone sees. I don't know. This
Because
cuckold
there's nowhere in the
culture.
world I could have had 20 wives.
I'm not
if
here
I'd
to-
have had 20 wives,
I'm not
I'd
here
be
to
dead.
king shame anyone.
I would die with 20
I
wives.
think adults should do what they want. But do you think, would you like to have multiple wives?
Let me say this. If I had 10, 15, 20 wives, I would die, Charles. I'd be a dead man. Because I'd overdose on the blue pill and Red Bull.
You're not answering the question.
I would overdose on the blue pill and Red Bull.
Would you like to have multiple wives?
What do you mean?
Would you like to have multiple wives?
To be honest with you,
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
I
Honesty.
cannot financially afford it.
Okay.
I'd be a damn fool to do it. Because if you cannot financially afford to maintain, sustain, and upkeep that woman and give that woman the lifestyle that we as Muslims are obligatory to give a wife, why do it, brother? Because you cannot financially afford it. You got men having more than one wife in America right now, but you got all the women working while he stay at home. I watched one poor bum of a brother on social media bragging about he got 3 white women as wives. They all got jobs and he stay at home. That is a warped misunderstanding of what I believe is a polygamous relationship.
Yeah, I personally, I
now,
have no interest
10,
in it.
I die.
Yeah, I mean, but
I'll be gone in a year.
Right, because what'd you say?
I'd overdose on Red Bull and a blue pill.
You know, I was very proud of my colleague here, Quan LX, being willing, while we're talking to America, thank you all our listeners, to admit that he is having to take a blue pill for his erectile dysfunction.
10 wives?
Hey man, if it doesn't work, I'm sorry.
10 wives?
I'm sorry, it's not working. I mean, we're the same
15
age.
wives?
But what do you think is causing your erectile dysfunction?
It's called stamina.
Okay, I mean, it doesn't.
You got to have some help.
I mean, I don't need no help.
Will you be ready?
I mean, but let's get back to this scumbag Samuel Bateman. I don't think 50 years was enough. So apparently
raping
he entered a
kids, I agree
Blackbird
with you.
2050. I think we should be guaranteed he should, and I'm not one to advocate for prison violence, but I mean, if there's anyone that should be
A child rapist, it is what it is.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
is what it is.
You know, I think everybody should be doing safe time in prison. But not only did this guy rape kids, he made them marry him. He made them carry his children. He made children have children. He convinced them that he was the vessel for God. And it's just so sad. And when people use that, when people use religion, it's just like the clergy that molest kids, right? Whether it's Catholic or any other form of Christian religion, or people in the Muslim church that molest kids,
abuse
or
is
people
abuse.
in the Jewish church that molest kids. You have I think anyone that uses that, I think that should be a multiplier for the consequence. I think if you use God to run your rape or run your scam or run your crime, I think you should spend a lot more time in prison.
But I'm not against polygamy if it's consenting adults.
Okay.
Because how can we be for same-sex marriage and against that?
For the record, one wife is enough for me. That sounds like too much of a hassle.
Well, if my money get right, I'm going to tell you right now.
Going to be banned? Because I know that I did, and the federal court just ruled that it will be banned indefinitely on January 19th. And so my second question is, where are we all going if TikTok is no longer an option? Because what?
While the ruling increases the likelihood that TikTok will be banned, it's not a done deal just yet. TikTok plans.
So TikTok's lawyers have actually filed a Hail Mary seeking the Supreme Court to delay the TikTok ban that is scheduled now for January 19, 2025, the day before President Trump takes office. And he has expressed his antagonism for the TikTok ban. Personally, I think we just saw Australia ban social media for children. We have this woman on this clip talking about where will we go. I mean, I hope the kids will go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic as opposed to TikTok. You can find us on Instagram because TikTok is for the kids. Big Angry Law, Brother Quan.
No, I like TikTok, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think it's just a time suck, but the truth is we have legitimate concerns about what China is using our data for. I am all for the TikTok ban, but I am, I'm also concerned about the limitations on free speech that we're seeing in Europe and other places, the United Kingdom. But I think, from a lawyer's perspective, it is very unlikely the Supreme Court is going to step in and protect TikTok, and it's not going to break my heart to see them go.
I support the TikTok ban on the basis of why the lawsuit was brought in the first place. TikTok is owned by the Chinese government.
Well, it's run.
And hold on, it's run by the Chinese government, and the head of TikTok in China, the second in command, is a former Chinese intelligence officer of the Chinese army.
Right.
Now, it was also discovered through the CIA that the government of China was using TikTok to spy on the United States citizens and to use access to TikTok to spy on government's interior of government installations and government employees. So the U.S. is not trying to ban TikTok because America wants a censorship on freedom of speech. No. They're saying that the United States government is saying to China, you no longer will infiltrate our country using a social media app.
China doesn't let its kids spend all day on TikTok.
Got to be 17 years
they got
old.
all kind of rules about social media.
You got to be 17 years old to have a TikTok in China.
It's designed to rot our children's brains.
And it's doing that.
The algorithm is doing more harm. But like I said, you can go find me on Instagram where I'll be, where the adults are. And I, you know what? TikTok, don't let the good Lord hit you. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.